Have you ever been in a fandom and just thought, what am I looking at right now? I know I have. Fandoms can sometimes ruin shows for certain individuals, and to be honest, I can't blame those people for being disturbed by some of the things I've seen. And to be honest, some fandoms have actually scared me away from franchises too. I'm Lord Danny, and I'm going to tell you about 7 of the worst fan bases which currently exist. Just to be clear, I won't be including any anime franchises on here, since that can be a whole other list in itself. These will be fan bases I've also had some experience in, whether I have been a part of the actual fandom or know people who have experienced them. Anyway, let's get into the list. Number 7. My Little Pony. I included this one here because of my own personal distaste for the fandom. But compared to later fandoms in this list, this one is actually relatively tame. That doesn't mean the My Little Pony fanbase is harmless, however. I have heard stories of how grown men have made little girls cry, all because they don't like which characters they prefer. The shipping wars are also endless. And to be honest, I'm really not a fan of people who sexualize kids' cartoon characters. For me personally, I couldn't watch the show again after meeting people who claim that they want to actually have sex with animated horses. The show has also been influenced by the older fans too, which really does give people a reason to back away. The fandom pretty much has control over the series. The main problem with this series really is the creepy grown men who sexualize the characters. But I also really don't like how aggressive these fans can get. One YouTuber I watch is Hextian, a guy who makes doll customs, and he decided to make a gender-bent human Rainbow Dash doll. He actually took the video down because of how much hate he was receiving from My Little Pony fans, but he did put it back up. It didn't end there though. He actually began to dislike the doll himself, and has even said he might take it apart for other projects. And he even felt the need to make a second Rainbow Dash human doll which was female to appease the angry fans. Still, some of the fan songs for My Little Pony are quite catchy, and I used to like a few of the edgy ones back when the show was way more popular. I also used to love quite a few of the animations, and thought they were really well done. Plus, I can understand why the characters are so well loved. The fans can definitely be very creative and talented, but sadly, I've seen too much of the creepy side of the fandom and the aggressive side. Number 6. Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's face it, the Sonic fanbase is huge. I didn't really know if I should put it on here since there is so much diversity in the fandom, but after watching Dylan Thomas's recent livestream, I remembered why so many people hate us Sonic fans. One Sonic fan has actually been working on a Sally Acorn furry sex doll since the 90s up to very recently. Again, like with the My Little Pony fandom, I just can't stand seeing kids' characters being sexualized like that. It really creeps me out. When I've seen kids playing with My Little Pony toys or Sonic toys, I really hate thinking that somewhere there is someone jacking off to those same toys. It's just creepy. The Sonic fanbase is also famous for having people like Chris Chan or Sammy Classic Sonic Fan, but you guys have probably heard enough about them. Like with the other side of the My Little Pony fandom, Sonic fans can also be very talented. I've seen some amazing fan games, though some fan games really were just weird. And the Flash animations are amazing. I loved the Sonic short series, and I loved Nazo Unleashed, and I still follow the Sonic animation community. A Sonic Flash game was actually what introduced me to Sonic back when I was a kid. So there is a lot of talent here, but sadly those vocal fans do gather the most attention. Seriously though, what the hell is half of this stuff? Number 5. Undertale. Another fandom I'm part of. Seriously though, the Undertale fandom is what scared me away long before I decided to play the game. Once again, Undertale contains fans which are at war with each other when it comes down to who ships which characters. I personally don't really ship anybody aside from Undyne and Alphys, since that ship is canon. But the amount of people who go out of their way just to attack other people in the fandom is frightening. I love meeting people into the same stuff as me, so the fact that people will actually attack people who share their interests just because of which characters they ship is disgusting. It's just a game. I put this fandom further into the list because of all the horror stories you guys will have most likely heard before, and, of course, the cringy content produced by Sans Papyrus fangirls. Still, this fandom is again one which is huge with plenty of talented individuals. The fan games are amazing, and so are the fan songs and animations. And let's face it, the theories people come up with for Undertale are really interesting, particularly the WD Gaster ones. Number 4. Eddsworld. Now we're getting to the real dark stuff. And again, this is a fandom I've been part of for a long time, and I have witnessed some of this stuff myself. Eddsworld, as many of you will know, was originally created by Ed Gould, who died in 2012 of leukemia. Ever since then, the show has been taken over by his close friends and reached a conclusion which I was personally happy with. But the show received quite a bit of criticism after Ed Gould's passing, with people accusing Thomas Tom Scar Ridgewell, the voice of Tom in the series, of making the story about him, while also claiming that he was faking his grief for Ed or milking it out. Many fans also never really understood that the cartoon depictions of Ed, Tom, Matt and Todd were just fictional versions of the real people, even going as far as to harass Matt's wife on social media to the point where he had to speak out about it. But the worst thing that happened was when Todd was actually harassed to the point where he had to leave the show and leave the internet altogether. After Ed's passing, he made a video on why he left the show, which I don't remember much of since I didn't watch it all the way through, but it wasn't long before he took it down due to the harassment. All of his accounts across the internet disappeared, and apparently he even had to change his name. This is a real man who has had his life ruined by crazed fans, and lots of people actually blame Tom, because in the show, Tom and Todd disliked each other. Again, these were just comedic characters. Tom spoke out on his Tumblr blog and told everyone that he did not hate Todd, and he did not get rid of him or judge him for leaving. I wish I could say more positive things about this fandom like I did previously, but it's getting a lot harder at this point in the list. I've seen some nice fan art and cool animations, but I've also seen way too many people who forget the difference between fiction and reality. Number 3. Rick and Morty. This show went from having a healthy fanbase to being a terminal brain tumour in the blink of an eye, and I'm sure this is a fandom you are all well aware of. It's quite tragic, really. At my old school, almost everyone loved Rick and Morty, and made references to it. I used to sing Get Swifty in the corridors, and people would just do harmless voice impressions. Nowadays, I've walked past people in pop culture shops and heard them say that any Rick and Morty fans in their schools get spat on. It's really tragic how the Rick and Morty fandom has created such a problem for itself. And of course, you can't just go around attacking people for liking the show. But why has this fan base gathered so much hatred? Well, because of this. When people went on about the Szechuan sauce to me, it just seemed like a harmless joke. Then it escalated to the point where people were actually having riots outside McDonald's to demand for the sauce to be remade. Many of the fans also believe they are really intelligent, and if you don't get one joke in the show, then you will be laughed at by the majority of these people. I had it myself when I was in school, where if I didn't understand the reference or find one of the references funny, I'd be mocked, and the student mocking me would call the nearest person to him saying, "Hey, Danny doesn't understand Rick and Morty. He's so stupid, lol 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 lol, I am so smart." The fact that so many people in this fandom feel so superior is really pathetic. Just because the show is about an overpowered scientist, it doesn't mean the rest of you are overpowered scientists. Speaking of people with high standards, I also don't like how judgy the fans can be of others. I was sat in class and I decided to doodle Rick and Morty in an anime art style. I showed the guy I was sat with, and he just rolled his eyes and gave me the most disgusted look anyone could give another human being. He said that anime was cringy, and that such characters shouldn't be changed out of their normal art style. It wasn't like I spent hours doing some amazing artwork. I literally just did a quick doodle out of boredom, because I was combining two things I loved, Rick and Morty and anime. Again, this fandom has too many downsides to see anything positive, but that doesn't mean the good people don't exist. I've seen some amazing Rick and Morty cosplay and prop recreations, and some fan-made animations really are brilliant. I still have a fondness for the show, but I've since stayed away from it after having too many people trying to kill me for not understanding jokes or for not watching season 3 before its Netflix release. Number 2. Steven Universe. Trust me, it was actually pretty difficult to separate this one from the Rick and Morty fanbase. But I suppose I finally managed to decide merely because of my personal opinion. While I do like Rick and Morty, I really don't like Steven Universe at all. I only really like Peridot because she's the only decent character in the show. I say she, but apparently the gems don't have genders or something, I don't know. The Steven Universe fandom is very similar to the Rick and Morty fandom in terms of how the individuals behave. Many fans see themselves as superior and will become greatly triggered if you offend their beloved favourite show. And criticism is something they don't take lightly. The only difference is that Rick and Morty is aimed towards loud and obnoxious anarchists who would happily shoot down any sort of feminist or vegan protest, while Steven Universe is aimed towards social justice warriors who will take those bullets. A large part of the fandom actually almost bullied someone into suicide just because they drew one of the overweight characters in a slimmer form. You see, I can understand why this would upset overweight people because it could be considered a form of body shaming, but people do this all the time with characters, only the other way around. I've seen fan art across all fandoms where people draw overweight versions of slim characters, and nobody really complains about it. If they like it, they like it. If they don't like it, they avoid it. It's that simple. You don't need to bully someone into trying to kill themselves just because they changed a character's appearance, because it happens all the time. On top of that, many of the fans act like mind-controlled sheep. I was watching a video about how Steven Universe was censored in certain countries, and the comments were almost identical to one another, with all of them praising the show's creator, Rebecca Sugar, for putting up a middle finger to the Russian censors by having Ruby, a character turned into a male in the Russian version of the show, wear a dress for her lesbian wedding. I say lesbian, but again, these gems are genderless, so it's hardly anything to praise when the LGBT couples aren't officially LGBT at all. I don't like how many fans also claim that this show is amazing for children. It's really not. It's basically political propaganda, pushing its beliefs onto its young viewers and teaching them that if someone disagrees with your opinion, they are wrong. I could go into a huge rant about how bad the show is itself, but I might do that another time. Right now, I am focusing on the people in the fanbase who claim that anyone who hates this show is homophobic, racist, and transphobic. Yes, I am so homophobic because I don't like a cartoon. The fans of this show need to stop defending it like it's the best thing on earth. When people criticize things I like, I don't respond by saying that their opinion is wrong and that they are Nazis. I defend my show as much as I can with logic, but I am well prepared to settle on an agree to disagree conclusion to the argument. The Steven Universe fanbase is something I'm really staying away from. As for positive things about the fanbase, I really don't know. I can only say that I know someone personally who is a Steven Universe fan, but even they've admitted that the show has major flaws and that they are avoiding the fandom because of how aggressive it is. So if you like Steven Universe, be very wary of some of the people in the fandom. Number 1. Creepypasta. This is a strange one, I know. But how could I not put this at number 1 when I've seen so much aggression in this fanbase, so many terrifying comments by edgy teenagers with malicious thoughts, and an actual murder attempt which made the news? I've been in the Creepypasta fandom for quite a while, and I have done my best to distance myself from it. I used to follow an artist known as Kyoichi, now known as Kyovan unless he's changed his name again, and he made some amazing fan art of the Creepypasta characters, particularly Jeff the Killer. He even made his own Jeff the Killer comic, and came very close to finishing it, but he lost inspiration mainly due to his fans. Many of them only liked his Jeff the Killer fan art, and wanted to see him do more of certain ships such as Jeff and Lou, Jeff and Randy, Randy and Keith, and Randy and his drunk and abusive father. Yeah. There came a point where Kyoichi actually deleted everything to do with Creepypasta on his DeviantArt blog, and kept pleading his fans to stop mentioning it to him. I'm pretty sure he even did some art which attacked this part of the fanbase to get them off his back. People actually threatened him and abused him just because he no longer drew Creepypasta, which is really unfair. Creepypasta was never his only focus, so he had every right to choose to stop focusing on it to do new things such as create his own comic series. I'm pretty sure Madame Macabre, a famous Creepypasta YouTuber, also went through similar abuse, since I did see quite a few abusive comments on her Creepypasta comic, The Seer, with people claiming that they would rather cut themselves with razors than read it, while also blaming her for causing the Zalgo vs Slenderman story many people took inspiration from. Then, when she decided to stop working on The Seer, many fans attacked her and unsubscribed, in that order. You can go on any YouTube video or piece of fan art on DeviantArt and find some of the creepiest comments, with people claiming that they're like Jeff the Killer because they violently beat up bullies or fantasize about killing people while feeling really excited. It actually disturbed me quite a bit to read such comments. And like I mentioned before, 2 teens actually did try to kill someone because of Creepypasta. They believed that sacrificing their friend would summon Slenderman, so that they could become his followers, or proxies. So before you think about passing off those psychotic, edgy teenager comments as harmless and attention-seeking, you might want to think twice when remembering that there have been some pretty violent attacks. Honestly, the members of the Creepypasta fandom are some of the scariest people I have ever encountered. Luckily, the fandom is dying, but the active members are still insane. Even so, I still enjoyed being in the Creepypasta fanbase way back in 2013 and 2014, because it always made Halloween so fun. I loved celebrating the holiday with a few Creepypasta twists of my own. There have also been plenty of fan comics of certain stories or crossovers, and I've seen some great animations. Some were dark and scary, as they should be, while some were fun and light-hearted. The fan stories were also interesting to read, until you got to Nina the Killer. Also, how can we forget the games? The Slender game terrified me when it came out, and the Jeff the Killer game was also pretty freaky, even though it used cheap jump scares. Sonic.exe used to also really terrify the hell out of me, and I would sometimes not sleep for days, especially because one time I played it and actually did have my computer shut down for no reason. The Tails doll theory also must be appreciated by me, as a Sonic fan, since I did have a spook one time when my Sonic R game started to control itself while I was playing as Tails doll, but luckily this was due to my bad controller. Or was it? The Tails doll story is what started to pull me into the Sonic fandom because I thought it was an actual thing in the game. And I also did create a Tails doll plushie a good few years ago, along with a Sonic.exe plushie. So I have a strong fondness for the Creepypasta community due to how it has positively impacted my life. But I have seen so much devastation caused by the fans that I had no choice but to put it up here. Until a Rick and Morty fan murders someone for being of a lower intelligence, or a Steven Universe fan kills someone for being a Nazi, the Creepypasta fandom will always remain as the #1 worst fandom to exist. And there you have it. 7 of the worst fandoms to exist. I know that I may have missed some fandoms, such as the Homestuck fandom or the K-pop fandoms, but these are 7 fandoms I've had experience in, or people I know have had experience in, or I've just witnessed as an outsider. So, if there's a fandom I didn't mention that you think should have been on this list, then do leave a comment down below and describe why you think that fandom should be in this list. Give a few horror stories as well, since it is October and the theme is Halloween and scariness, and of course, fandom stories are pretty terrifying because they are true horror stories. So anyway, I hope you guys have a happy Halloween if I don't upload for another 6 months. And do let me know if you'd be interested in seeing me do a top 10 worst anime fandoms video. Don't worry, I'm trying to get back into doing Sonic and doing other videos, but I'm also trying to get into a more consistent upload routine, since I know a lot of people watching me like to make jokes about how I disappear and hibernate for about a year before I make new videos. Anyway, again, I hope you enjoyed. This is Danny, signing out.